Hi everyone, today we are going to present on the topic emoji. So before we start, let's have a small test. Which message will you perceive the sender as having a strong positive emotions? And which message will you perceive the sender as having a strong negative emotions? So I guess many of you may say it's the message with emoji. So why is emoji essential in daily life? In the digital era, the text message has suppressed voice call, email, and face-to-face communication, and become the most popular means of daily communications. While a text message includes frequent exchange of non-verbal graphic, which is emoji. For the function of emoji, emoji can convey emotions and strengthening emotional communication. But what if the text message is already expressed in a positive or negative tone? Will emoji plays an important role in these situations? Here comes to our research questions. Would emoji enhance the receiver's perception of the emotional state of the sender?
Let's move on to the methodology part. Here are the hypotheses for our research question. The null hypothesis would be that interpretation of the emotional state of the sender will not be driven by the emotional feelings of the emojis. For the alternative hypothesis 1, the use of positive emojis in positive messages will lead to a significantly more positive interpretation of the emotional state of the sender compared to messages without emojis. For the second alternative hypothesis, the use of negative emojis in negative messages will lead to a significantly more negative interpretation of the emotional state of the sender compared to messages without emojis. In this study, a total of 118 participants were recruited online using Qualtrics. Personal data such as age, gender, and current educational level were collected in a texting conversation. They will be presented with 20 text messages on the screen. Half of the messages are presented with an emoji that is relevant to the text messages, while the other half does not include an emoji. These messages, comprising both types, were mixed together and presented in a randomized order to the participants. The primary objective of the participants was to interpret the emotional state of the sender for each text message by indicating the extent to which they believed the sender was experiencing certain emotions. To facilitate this, a 6-point Likert scale was employed. 1 to 3 point indicating negative emotional states, with 1 representing the most negative, and 4 to 6 as positive emotional states, with 6 representing the most positive. Here are the positive questions. Here are the negative questions. Following the completion of this task, a manipulation task was conducted to assess the general perception and emotional feelings of the emoji used in the previous texting task. Participants were instructed to rate whether each presented emoji conveyed a positive or negative emotion, using a 7-point Likert scale, with a score of -3 indicating the most negative, 0 representing neutral, and 3 reflecting the most positive evaluation.
As for the results, we will first look at the demographic information of our participants. Most of them have a tertiary education background. Their mean age is 19.3, and the gender ratio is roughly even, with slightly more female participants. Since it is a within-subject design, paired samples t-tests were performed to test for treatment effects. Also, effect size is measured and the alpha level is set at 0.05. It was revealed that there are significant differences for all the positive sentences, and the effect size is large since they are larger than 0.8. All box plots show significant results. Surprisingly, only 2 out of 5 of the negative sentences have significant differences, and the effect size is medium. The first 2 sentences show significant results, but others do not. On top of that, the results of the manipulation check shows that all positive emojis have a positive mean, while all negative emojis have a negative mean. This implies that the participants perceived the emotions conveyed by the chosen emojis as intended.
So in the following, we are going to talk about the discussion section. So how emoji influence our perception? As Butte et al. Proposed, Emoji could provide a richer and more realistic representation of facial expressions. Moreover, the researchers illustrated that the presence of a negative emoji intensified the perceived negativity of a negative sentence. Adding a positive emoji to a message increases the perceived warmth of the sender. Furthermore, in particular, the use of positive emojis could improve communication, express feelings, and make a positive impressions during socially driven digital interactions. Moreover, the research conducted by San Pietro provide an explanation that emoji could be used to convey effects, and they offer contextual information that enhance interpretation of a message, meaning, and emotional tone. This research suggested that emoji could provide additional contextual information, facilitate processing and understanding of the emotional tone and meaning of verbal messages, and intensify perceived emotional state of message. Furthermore, emojis can act as visual symbols or be read as nonverbal cues that fulfill semantic or emotional functions. Specifically, emoji can represent content, more transactive meaning, or emotions. In addition, the information conveyed in emoji can enrich the meaning of a text message. As a result, emoji could act as a cue to guide us to perceive the feelings of the sender, since emoji could represent facial expressions.
And for the summary, we investigated that the effect of different types of emoji on the perceived emotional valence of neutral text. The previous research has yielded findings as to the efficacy of emoji in shaping participants' perceptions of sentiment. We recruited a large sample of participants who possess general perception on the meaning of the emoji as shown in the manipulation test. We predicted that messages paired with a positive emoji would be rated as more emotionally positive than the control condition, and that message paired with a negative emoji would be rated as more emotionally negative than the control condition, which is the H1A and H1B hypothesis. The paired sample t-test showed that the positive emoji hypothesis is upheld while the negative one is rejected. And there are possible factors leading to such results. Wu et al. Had also studied emojis featuring facial expressions. They suggested that East Asian participants might be impacted on how the emoji themselves were perceived instead of how the emojis shaped the whole message. As all of our participants are from Hong Kong, and most of them aged between 18 and 22, it is possible that the participants have a unique perception of the emoji itself, which in return affect the experimental results, such as perceiving the happy facial expressions as not so happy at all. Another one is the scaling method. The Likert scale type is ordinal by nature. Although the scale points might appear equally spaced, it cannot be guaranteed that each participant makes the same value judgments as to what comprises a response at each scale point, or that each participant's evaluations of adjacent points are equal, which means that participants may space the 1 and 2 more further apart than the 2 and 3, and the perceptions of scale, for example, the scale of 2 or the scale of 5 or 6, are different. And for example, that two participants might think that the text is sort of negative, but one might vote 2 while the other voted 3, or even some would vote 1.
Another finding is that there's a social connection between the sender and the recipient, but only if they are of positive valence. For happy emojis, they signalize a warm sender-recipient relationship and express positive emotion overall, ultimately acting more to maintain the social connection between sender and recipient, and contrasts that upset emojis are treated as meaningful social emotional cues that affect the recipient and amplify negative emotion conveyed in the emoji. It suggests that information from upset emojis is integrated as content, thus acting as tools of the sender to express their mental state in a more indirect fashion.
And this is the end of our presentation.